One. Hi there, my name's Danny Henderson. Welcome back to my beautiful disclosure channel. My guest today, he's back. It's the one, it's the only Ron Swanson. Hello, Ron, my love. How are you?
How you doing, Danny? Thanks for having me back. Part two, very exciting. Getting on to the next part of the journey, um, and excited to talk about it a little bit more. So yeah, thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. No, we've been looking forward to doing this together. We've been planning it for quite some time. To my beautiful viewers and people joining the channel, hi there. I did part one with Ron a few weeks ago. It was really fascinating to get into his background, his history, his paranormal connections. There's so much to this man. He's a broadcast journalist and he is an advocate for global child safety. And that is one of the areas of his work that we are going to get into today. So, Ron, I think we'll take the easy route in because it's a very emotional subject. You're extremely passionate about the safety and the lives of all of our children and their influences by hideous monsters that we enjoy taking down and reporting and seeing go to prison and suffer horribly in ways that only they would understand. And you are so passionate in this regard. I think what I'd like to do is just invite you to share with us the first time that you had this fire to do something to support and protect our children.
Okay, yeah, it's a good question. So about 10 years ago, there was this surge of curiosity of YouTube content all about the dark web, right? And the narrative back then was very much shock value stories. Okay. So websites where you could buy weapons or substances, or these Russian science experiment websites where they talk about horrible human experiments and things like this. No footage, no images, very much just text based, right? So were they real? We don't know. And then that sort of content evolved into blackmail websites. Now, this is where it kind of goes from make up your own mind, is it real, to organized criminal activity surrounding young teens who at the time were having their phones hacked or their computers hacked. Now, imagine you're going for a shower and you put on your Spotify playlist and you sit your phone up on the window and then you get undressed and you go in the shower. Well, imagine how many people do something like that every day. And if your phone was compromised and someone had filmed you undressing, getting in the shower and getting out the shower, there's a lot of people that could be held hostage by something like that. And this is what was happening to young girls, young boys, who were then told that if they didn't film themselves doing horrific things, this was all going to be released. And it was very much blackmail for content, not blackmail for finances, right? And it's called sextortion, basically, this whole issue. And I'm like, this can't be real. There's no way YouTubers are just talking about this for content and no one actually not doing anything about it, right? So I learned how to report a website. First of all, that was the first thing I thought. Right, if I can take a website address and hand it over to someone who can actually take down the site from a server point of view, I feel like I'm doing some good here, right? So I learned about the IWF, the Internet Watch Foundation, and that is a website where you can anonymously report any website if you feel children are in danger, it depicts child abuse, anything at all, right? They'll go and investigate it. And they are brutal. Like, they do not mess around. They have created new technology for tagging abuse material within the actual material itself, so that AI can recognize the upload or distribution of something before it's open or seen. It's a fingerprint. It's on my website. Anyway, now these blackmail sites became famous. There was one in particular that became notorious with being unstoppable, and the stuff that was uploaded and what these blackmail teenagers went through, and some adults too, was horrific. And it's now luckily the thing of legend. It's now gone. I'm sure there's other versions of it there, but during my research for this, right, I learned quickly how to program what's called the Tor browser, which is the Onion router, which is what you use to go on the dark web, and you can adjust the browser. So imagine you're in Google and you go to YouTube. You'll see thumbnails, you'll see videos, maybe an advert will start automatically playing. Well, if you're going to be looking for stuff that can like literally traumatize you for life, you've got to do it in a way that's legal, right? You can't just be the journalist who's like, oh, I'm taking on child predators and these sort of websites, and you're sitting exposing yourself to it all. So I couldn't believe, I could not believe that nobody was doing anything about this. So my browser would not show images, and it wouldn't show JavaScript, and it wouldn't show videos. It would just show as if the image is missing, right? So first of all, I thought, right, I can protect myself against the UK laws and not exposing myself to stuff that's going to traumatize me, if I want to take this further, because all I was seeing, Danny, was spiders, which are bits of code you put out there to go and gather up web addresses, because you don't go on the dark web like Google and type in child abuse content, bong, and then it brings up a bunch of horrible stuff. You have to have the address, and the address is usually a series of random numbers and letters and then dot onion at the end, right? So the spider goes out, gathers up all these sites. You then go through the sites one at a time to see if they need to be reported. Now, when it comes to the massive scale of this on the dark web, there's two different types of site that I would focus on. You've got the communities, like the forums, okay, where these groups gather. And then you've got the sites that are selling material, which is very much like your online shopping experience. You've got a list of things that you can buy, you click on them, you add to cart, all this kind of stuff. Now, when you go on a site like that, there's no community discussion. So all I'm seeing is 90% of the website removed because it's images and videos, but then you'll have the sales pitch blurb. Oh, welcome to teeny tiny tots. You'll see the, horrible stuff like that. It's self-explanatory. You only need one paragraph of text to know what's going on. But the forums and the communities, which are, in my mind, are clubhouses, Danny, right? They're clubhouses. Those are the ones, because once something's digital media, the chances of you ever stopping its distribution is limited, right? It's the internet. It doesn't matter what it is, if it's a copyrighted song or if it's someone's innocence being destroyed. If it's digitized and out there, it's hard to clamp down on its distribution. So I focused a lot on the clubhouses, because if you've got a website with 1,000 members and I destroy it, you might only get 600 members back. And if I destroy it again, you might only get 300 members back. And if I just keep pissing in your cornflakes until the bowl is just full of my piss, brilliant. Because these monsters and the way that they gather blew my mind. And that's just the introduction to how I kept myself safe, how I basically went after these blackmail sites. And I was mortified that people were not talking about the children. Because when you've got a spider that comes back with 1,000 links, okay, and 800 of them are all reporting something to do with child abuse, trafficking, it's horrific. And that's just, when we look at the grand scale of how people assume children are trafficked and abuse takes place, you've got to remember how much of this is the parents or a friend of the family or a babysitter or a nursery worker who has access to these kids, and they've well versed in how to target children and create some form of unnoticeable abuse. And the stories that these monsters used to talk about with non-verbal children in nursery groups, okay, was what pushed me over the edge. Like when I remember reading it, and it was two women gloating about how the parents of these non-verbal children are so dumb and they don't realize how much money they're making off of their children and their children's torment. And that was it for me. That was it. That was when the first tiny like mental breakdown in my brain happened, and I was like, wow, this is humanity, right? And it felt like, when I don't know, you get into fishing, right? And you join a fishing Facebook page, and everyone's like, how good is fishing, Danny? Danny, fishing is awesome. And Danny's like, oh, I love fishing. Look at my fishing pictures. Look at my trophies. That's how they talk about abusing children on the dark web, right? It's not, hey, Maddie, let me just tell you this. It's pride. The pride is enraging. Okay. We're talking about people who, and don't get me wrong, we're talking about 10 years ago. We're still in the 10 years ago era where there was still that whisper of anonymity on the dark web. Once YouTubers got a hold of it, the whole world knows about the dark web now. You know what I'm saying? It's now, but we're now in the era of the encrypted app, right? So we're going to get to the evolution of all this, because you learn very quickly, like the regular internet was never set up for you to do banking on. The dark web isn't as glamorous or as scary as you think. The dark web is what you call the uncached internet. So, Danny, when you go onto Google and you type anything in and you hit return, you kind of know, if you type in bicycle baskets, right? You pretty much know Google has guaranteed that you're not going to see any child abuse when you type that in, right? So anything that is legal, all right, or that we know as the known website, is the cached website, all right? That, are you ready for it? Is 1% of the internet. So the entire internet, Danny, that you know as the internet is 1% of the internet. The rest of it is the uncached internet, okay? Which is all the crap that's illegal, all the crap that's terrorist based, all the crap that is, you know, someone's bank reports from a 1950s company, whatever. And it's this whole onion router was set up so journalists had an encrypted way of reporting on things that governments couldn't detect. Okay. So you have complete encryption and anonymity. Now, knowing what was going on and seeing these sites, learning how to take them down, and learning how to protect myself from all the horrors of these sites, I just went off on one, Danny, like for 5 years, just went off on one and took down thousands and thousands and thousands of websites. I mean, I would keep a little list, right? And I'd go back and I would check and I would check and I would see if the IWF were taking them down. And then I would see if they didn't take them down, what was the connection between the two sites that didn't get taken down out of 100? Was there anything obvious about where their servers were located, or and things like this? But the pride, Danny, in these communities was too much. So fast forward now, we're now sort of approaching the era of me blowing up on the internet, making a documentary about this, and the mission really starting. Up until this point, I am a triggered person who is all over the place, not really knowing how to zone in to make anything different. And I was like, no one is talking about this. Why is no one talking about this? Why are they all talking about fake serial killer stories on the dark web, or like substance trafficking websites, and where you can buy an AK? I mean, it's like, why are you not? I know what you're seeing. I know what these people are having to sift through. Why is no one talking about it? So I thought, right, I'm going to do this properly. So I contacted Police Scotland. I said, I need you to come down to my house. I need to show you a computer setup. I need to show you some videos and evidence of what I'm going to be doing. And I need you to see it so that you have a file on me in Police Scotland that explains my process, how I do this legally, how I can prove at any time that I'm not seeing or distributing or looking at any of this media. And I said, I'm serious about this. What's the best course of action? And he's like, okay, so do the IWF, but anything that involves individuals or database breaches, it was literally manila envelope style metaphorical handovers to Police Scotland and to Interpol, right? And that went on for years and years. And it was crazy when it got so big, right, that the people that I was fighting against started trying to fight me. And I remember like two plainclothes detectives turning up at my front door one day, and they're like, "Hi, we just wanted to have a wee chat with you about your YouTube videos. Do you mind if we come in?" And I'm like, "First of all, no, you're not coming in, right?" I said, "I've been upgraded to plainclothes detectives." I said, listen, I said, your time is being wasted. I said, you are two plainclothes detectives at my door. I said, everything you want to know about me is in a file up the road. And they're like, oh, no, no, we've read it. And I said, then, well, why are you here? And he's like, well, we just wanted to go through it with you again. And I'm like, well, go back up the road and read it again. I said, unless you're arresting me or you're charging me with something, I said, you're having smoke blown up your backside. And I said, I'm not going to be part of it. And I've got it all on recorded. Like it's one of those moments where I'm happy to work with the police, but don't be coming to my door to try and think I'm going to hand over information to you because you've fallen victim to a troll. Do you know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of obstacles in the path. The bigger it got, the more missions and operations that took place, um, the more threats, the more money I disrupted, the more threats. You know, emails turned into uh, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of emails from text messages, people they sending me my address and all of this. And all I'm saying, right, is I'm not the smartest guy in the world, right? But see, if you're going to unalive someone, best not to email them and tell them about it ahead of time. Okay, right. So we started looking at fronts. How if you right were a business on the dark web, how would you find new predator like-minded monsters to make money from, right? And I started thinking about how could you have a front on the internet, right? And then sadly, I thought, let's go and have a look on YouTube. Let's go and investigate some of these child modeling sites, right? These child modeling channels, because it's very interesting when you look at a legitimate child modeling agency. You know, every Argos catalog needs, you know, kids sliding down slides or swinging on swings for you know what I'm saying. You open up a catalog, you're maybe looking to buy a sand pit. There's some kids playing at the sand, right? I mean, it's a common use for a child model, effectively, right? But the companies that represent these children from these legitimate agencies make it damn clear that they're a legitimate agency. There's no kids in swimming costumes or anything like that. It's like kids in as many layers as you could imagine. It's usually snowy winter pictures that are on the front of these sites because there's like 40 layers on the kids. But when you start seeing a Yugoslavian and Ukrainian modeling agencies that have 9-year olds in chaps and bikinis with riding crops in their hands, walking down runways and turning with thongs on as a content that they're putting out, you have to ask yourself, does it really add up that in one of the most poorest nations in the world, you have a 10-year-old girl in a hand sequined ball gown dress, okay, with teeth all done, hair all done, makeup all done, and her mum and dad maybe earn £2 a month? Is there not something a little bit suspicious? And then you find out about sponsorship, Danny, right? Hey, listen, we'll foot the bill for your daughter. It's going to give her a great opportunity, right? And the next thing you know, your daughter is one of 65 children that were getting trafficked around the Ukraine by a couple who owned a company called Brimmer Models. And when I got my teeth into Brimmer Models, this took us to the furthest, darkest places on the dark web I have ever been. There is a website on the dark web, Danny. I'm not going to tell you what it's called. And the last time I checked in, it had over 6 million members. 6 million people that have been told to go to a dark website because it is the number one place for safety for PDFs, for predators, for traffickers, for mums that abuse their kids, for uncles that sell the footage of their children, like their niece and nephew. It's my nemesis. And when I tell you, Danny, it's easier to infiltrate our own government servers, metaphorically speaking, of course, than it is to infiltrate this website. You've got to ask yourself, who's running that? Where are they getting that level of encryption and technology and safeguarding these people? Because for every person like me that's fighting against this, there's a PDF file with a brain twice the size of mine who's fighting against me. And I get incredibly enraged at these human beings. I can't do the in-face stuff. I couldn't go and do this in person or do the predator hunting. Like I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I could, but I couldn't make content from it, if you know what I'm saying. So my passion for this stems from their passion. Okay. I cannot ignore the passion of trauma. I cannot ignore the passion and the community driven traumatic communities that promote, advocate. And do you know what's even okay? Right. So, Danny, imagine this, right? You're on the dark web, you're infiltrating this community, and you're watching play out in real time two different kinds of pedophile arguing about why they're the best kind of pedophile. Like make that so you've got the ones who think children can consent. They're called the child lover, right? The child lover pedophile or PDF file. Those are the ones who think children can consent and it's a beautiful thing and it's society that's wrong for putting all these things on the kids to make them feel shame. Mental, right? There was a UK group called Pi that in the 60s were petitioning for the age of consent to be lowered to 4. Okay. This is where these people's mindsets are, right? So you've got one of them, right? Arguing with a different kind of PDF file who's like, oh no, I like it when they know they're not consenting, and I like the trauma, and I like destroying the innocence and all this, and they're arguing. You like human beings are meant to witness conversations like that. Your brain doesn't know how to interpret what you're seeing when you've got two monsters arguing over why they're the better monster. It's wild. I mean, it's wild. So I started thinking to myself, right, so there's some big fish out there, and there's some people who think they can go on the internet and say whatever the hell they want about kids. Mm-hmm. And this brim of models, there's a video on my channel, I'm pretty sure. It's up there. And then there was another one called what was the other one called? Belen Kazar, right? And Belen Kazar went as far as like reaching out to me. They were like, hey, don't worry. All the kids here are fine. Just ignore the riding crops. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, nah, mate. Nah. I think what I'll do is I'll just release the full video and we'll go from there. And then the next day, I started getting like cease and assist letters and all this kind of, oh, not letters, but emails. I got the address of the lawyer in Venezuela, where this was, and then made a video of myself wiping my ass with a cease and assist, and I mailed it back to him, right? I mailed it back to him. If you're going to send me a cease and assist from Venezuela, right, you better hand deliver. You better show me. What you think? You think I'm going to nip over to Venezuela? You think I'm just going to be like, oh, I'm just going to nip over to Venezuela? Nah, mate. Nah. So they then got raided and all their computers were taken out of the building and a huge investigation. But sadly, when you deal with certain parts of the world, you deal with corruption like you ain't ever seen, you know? I mean, we're dealing with the $150 billion a year industry that is the human transportation industry. And you've got a police force who are on $9 a month, and someone turns around and gives them 2 years worth of wages to just say, oh, I lost the paperwork. That's what we're up against. So that's what happened with the Belen Kazar case. The Brima Models case went straight to court. They were both convicted, went to jail. But sadly, it's like cutting the head off a snake, Danny, right? Or one of these metaphorical snakes. Don't actually cut the head off a snake and expect the head to grow back. It won't happen, right? But the mythical snake with the head grows back. Because they still got a YouTube channel. They're still going. They're still promoting, but they're just more careful. And I'm very excited to say that there's a few people that are on my list of former wins, shall we say, that I'm going to be checking back in with. Because we, as a team, the Surviving Life channel from years ago, we collectively disrupted millions of euros in this organized world of their money. We got a couple of convictions. We exposed almost thousands of people. I mean, database dumps of everybody that ever signed up for one of these abuse sites. If we can't find them, we'll info dump everything we have, and the next team picks it up, and then they away they go. So there's stuff sitting on servers that will be downloaded one day that someone will crack and release even more stuff from. And it just goes on and on and on and on, Danny. Like, I had a guy contact me pretending to be an active child predator and created this whole fake narrative for me to report on just so that he could feel like he was someone. There's people out there that will pretend to be a PDF file to be in some sort of YouTuber limelight. Now, luckily, we rumbled him for being, talking a lot of crap, and exposed them. And then he sent this huge letter about, I used to be a teacher, but then I got arrested for this, and my life was ruined, and I just wanted to feel like. I mean, I'm like, how mad, right? Like, how mad do you have to be to make up an entire narrative about a little girl that doesn't exist and then pitch it as a YouTuber to a YouTuber as a story? Mad. So it
Level,
just goes on, and
it's the level
the
of
subcategories. Sorry, Danny, on you go.
it's the level of mentality, or the lack of anything, the being, it is so distorted in its reality, in its realm, and a sickness like that with pedophilia, there's often on a spiritual level, sadly, some kind of lower entity, demonic frequency that feeds and thrives off the fear, as we know, of the child and
Yeah,
the and what people again fail to acknowledge or accept or believe because they're so influenced by the leaders on the planet, hence their from birth to now years of programming, MK Ultraing, etc., is that a majority of personnel who've set up these behind the back, like your 6 million plus, there's
mhm.
governments attached to this because the governments
Of course.
are just full of pedos, dirty,
Yeah,
filthy monsters. And some of these pedos, let's say the American government, they're still in high positions. Or they were, I'm sure Trump's weeding them out, but your Dick Cheneys, the things that man has done, and it's written about. It's in my friend's book, Transformation of America, Kathy O'Brien, because she was one of its victims. And, people, they wonder why, and they're listening to you. My God, you're just this like journalist. You've gone in, you've gone behind all the doors, you've gone through the dumpsters, down in the tunnels, and, you're a very brave man. Like you are a big man for doing this. And there's many people that will never, not even in a lunchtime, consider doing that because they don't want to, they don't have the heart for it, whatever. Doesn't matter, each to their own, right? But while I'm saying this to you, I know there are people, again, with the MK Ultra brainwashing that are going to look at that tattoo on your hand and say, but isn't that a pedo, kiddie liking tattoo? Again, because they listen to one thing, right? Your Viking tattoo.
yeah,
You
yeah,
listen to one thing, people, then they see all this stuff that on the internet, on YouTube, obsessed every day, all night, moving on to the next thing, filling their own minds with garbage, being allowed
yeah,
to be, used in this way. But like I said, but then here you are, bang, straight down
yeah.
and doing incredible
Listen,
work, incredible
yeah,
work.
this is a Vulnot. It's a Norse symbol connected to Odin that basically says that you've accepted your fate, and whatever's in front of you, you'll face head on because that's what you're meant to be and that's what you're meant to do. And yeah, it's mad. People do ask. A little kid came up to me one day and asked me if I was in the Illuminati because of the triangles, and I was like, "No, I'm in the Super Illuminati. Stay in school, or I will find you." Right? No, I'm only kidding. But no, I get a lot of people ask me about it. It goes this way, like
Yeah.
that, and it's one of the only symbols that has ever got credible connection to Odin from the Norse history, the Vikings, and yeah, there's a few symbols that connected, but that's the one I gravitated to. So we're going to get to, and do you know what, Danny? Up until this point, this has been the fun stories. So buckle in, kids. Things are going to get real rough. So up until this point, the majority of what I'm seeing are child lover situations, right? Even with the child modeling, it's people who feel like what they're doing, everything's okay, right? The kids are fine, they're having a good time, everyone's fine. That's their mindset, right? Obviously not, right? But that's their mindset. So then, Danny, I discovered a forum, and it was the first time I ever had actual fear of holy shit, what am I doing? Like, what am I looking at right now? And this forum was legitimately full of some of the most terrifying conversations I've ever seen, to do with ending a child's life, people ending a child's life and then putting it into sort of little different bits and then distributing it to people around the world. There was doctors from abortion clinics from all around the world on this website. And there was YouTubers' names, addresses, photographs, everything on this website that we're talking about stuff. There was downloads to viruses and things like this for sending to YouTubers. And I was like, fuck. So I remember making this video and then contacting the IWF. And this was right at the start, right? This was right at the start. And there's a reason why I need to go back to the start. So I waited about 4 months to upload this video. Once that website didn't exist anymore, I uploaded the video. And then there was a YouTuber called Chills, right? Who was a huge YouTuber who done like top 10 lists. And it was top 10 dark websites ever recorded. And I was like number 2 on the list. And it was me freaking out, looking and showing screenshots and some of the things that were being said. And that's when my YouTube channel exploded. Okay. And that was where I realized, so there's more than one kind of type of PDF file, right? What are they wanting dead babies for? Like, what's that about? Right? We're not even at the stage of ritualistic knowledge or anything. We're just like, that's a bit odd. So then you discover that there's probably a good reason why the news tends to cover certain types of story, or they word it a certain way when it comes to these things. Because then you discover there's a whole group of people, ritualistic individuals, murderous individuals, people that will talk about crushing animals' heads for fun. Like setting a cat on fire in a cage and just watching it. Just try, right? And imagine that sort of experience having no emotional impact on you, right? Forget about how could someone do that, right? Forget about that. How damaged and far from you or I is the person who can sit drinking his beer while an animal is on fire in a cage screaming and then go and sleep a good night's sleep? Just the thought of the noises, right, that animal would be made, just the ones I've made up in my head, right, are traumatic enough for me, right? I can't fathom it. And then you find out that these people are quite into doing similar things to children, right? You find out that, you know, I'm not really into, some of these people aren't into children. It's just children represent the purest form of innocence. Do you see what I mean? And obviously they are, but for me, it's the secondary draw is the child. The first draw is the innocent. So whereas you'll have PDFs who stay within an age group, right? Stay within that sort of age group that they think is what appeals to them as a PDF file. Whereas monsters like Savile, right, who will prey on a baby, they'll prey on a little boy, they'll prey on a little girl, they'll prey on an old lady, an old man. Those are the ones that are truly freaking terrifying, right? I had a conversation on an encrypted network, right, with this woman who used to meet up in a motel with this guy just to watch videos of children being tortured while they went at it with each other. First of all, how did the initial conversation of that start? Do you know what I'm saying? Well, we know now on these dark web forums, okay? And you learn about the torture and the abuse and the destruction of innocence, and then you start hearing the myths and legends, all right? And you start seeing short films that have been made by journalists, and you start realizing that there is a wide group of people that want to make your children disappear into dark places where, for two reasons. One, for the individual's want, the lone wolf, shall you say, the creepy guy who's got two kids in his basement, lives out in the woods, has no attachment to governments, has no attachment to groups. He's just the crazy lone wolf, right? Then you've got the gangs, right? But we're still on a normal person level here. We're not talking about elites. We're not talking about the powers that be. We're talking about the average man still. We've got the gangs, okay? But when you've got this split between a child leaving what's happened to them and a child not ever leaving that room again, that's when the pride and the trophies become in a whole new level. And there is a subcategory that I did a documentary on that's called hurtcore. Okay. And this is material of torture, of suffering, of just the most vile things. And again, you read, so imagine you're on Netflix, right? But there's no pictures and there's no videos. There's just the title and the description. Yeah. So you can kind of get an idea of what's going on, right? Because you're reading the title and description. And then you realize that in order to catch these people, Danny, in order to learn their processes, you need to talk to them in the wild, right? You need to be able to say, hey, so how do you go about, you know, luring a child off the internet? Can you explain it to me? So I posted in all of these terrible forums, all these horrible forums, and one which will remain nameless, which I'll go into one day with you, which this was the number one place if you wanted legitimate advice on kidnapping, torturing, and then sex tourism, trafficking, nonverbal identification of people when you're going to meet to exchange children, why you never use duct tape, you only ever use cable ties when you're abducting kids and all this kind of stuff. This was the real deal, this website. And I've archived so much of it, it's wild. And they'll be in one place for 6 months, disappear, not be around for a month, pop up somewhere else. They are an intelligent group, this one. But they are not, they are very much happy to be honest about the fact that they're all monstrous bastards. Now, hang on a second. Sorry, I've triggered and derailed myself. Right. So these communities and these individuals and these sites, I started posting adverts saying, hey, I'm doing a documentary about you monsters. Would anyone like to be interviewed? I'm doing it on an encrypted network. Just click this link and or email me and we'll set up a conversation. And I set up this entire encrypted network. So it was impossible for me to know who you are and for you to know who I am, right? On the dark web. And I just sat for about 3, 4, 5 weeks interviewing, learning, absorbing these people's tactics so that I could then just identify those patterns. And you learn nothing from the lion in the zoo, Danny. You learn nothing from it. You've got to go to the wild and learn from them there, because every single police interview you see with a PDF file, it's, oh, I'm trying to do better. I'm going to recover. I'm a changed man. Bullshit, you are. Bullshit. And that was wild because I used to publish all the conversations as well. And the amount of stuff that I learned from these interviews, but the interviews with the women and the people who genuinely cannot see children as human beings in this hardcore documentary, and man's fascination with death on film and torture on film uh, is wild. We start off in the documentary talking about the toolbox murders back in the 60s, where when the tapes of these women being killed were played in court, uh, people ran out of the court screaming, and you see the footage, the camera crews are out there. But when the door opens for these people to come running out, the noise that comes out of that courtroom, Danny, right, from the tape, you hear it for a split second, and it's one of the most prized possessions for these people. Because I said to them, I said, I want you to explain to me and show me in a way that demonstrates your obsession with physically injuring and torturing children in a legal way, right? To this guy, to one of these people, one of these monsters, right? So he started sending me, he sent me a story about what he would do if he was ever alone with a parent and their child and he had full control. And it was all about making that parent witness the loss of innocence. It was almost like if the parent's tied up and witnessing this, that's an extra layer on the cake for them. Okay. And then he went into surface web crime photos, right? So pictures that have been released by the police or crime scene photos that have happened of unalive people, unalive babies, unalive children, that are all available on Google, I might add. Like they're out there. Okay. So he showed me those and was like, do you not just think this is amazing? And it's like I've lost a child. I've literally held my baby in her arms while she died. And to see dead children being glorified, it's wild, right? So we continue. It's fun, Danny, right? This is great. Yeah, it's mad, right? It is mad. So we continue on in this documentary, and then I came across a father who done absolutely unspeakable things to his daughter, to the point where he became almost a thing of dark web legend. And he only did all of that to his daughter to get payback on his partner who left him. Now, when you talk about demons, right, in these people, I agree with you, but not fully. Because some of you ain't got shit in you. Some of you are just men and women. You don't deserve an out. You don't deserve the luxury of a demon. But people like this father, torn apart by the loss of his partner, this vulnerability that is created within a soul of someone, to me, when you started talking about demons inside people, that was the story that resonated with me. Because this guy had nothing, no inclinations, never abused his daughter, nothing. And just as a revenge tactic, I mean, horrific story. And these people, these individuals I'm talking to, the pride they have was mind-blowing. Now, we're still in the era of the dark web, okay? Because Ron, it started to click with Ron. Listen, how are red rooms, how are all these tortures of children that happen live taking place on an internet that can't support live streaming? The dark web is like dial up on freaking night nurse, dial up on night nurse. It ain't rapid, right? So I realized the dark web is the myth that protects these people. Because if it's that scary and you can't get on it and you can't find it, shit business model, Danny, right? If you launch a business that no one can find in a place that's too scary for people to go, right? You ain't getting that passive income. You have your big fish, you'll have the big guys that sit in like the gold-plated animal heads in freaking Squid Games that are the big ticket people, right? But you gotta get that bread and butter, Danny. You gotta get that passive income from this. And if no one can find your business, it ain't working. Well, In comes the era of the app, the encrypted conversation, Telegram, WhatsApp, and my God, did it become the new norm. So the scariest places are not the dark web. The scariest places are not some hidden realm. The scariest place in the world is a Facebook group conversation, is a WhatsApp group and a Telegram group. Because you may find all the horrible stuff on the dark web. You may have found your community there. You may have started off on Google on some Russian imaging board where there's a million images posted there with 100 categories of photography. But children and holidays has 92% of the entire population of the website. Animals and pets has less than 1%. There's a definite reason why 98% of the content is little children. And then you follow the breadcrumbs and you follow the breadcrumbs and you realize these sites are linking back to the dark web, where once they've got you there, that's where they hit you with your Bitcoin subscription to the Telegram group or the WhatsApp group, where you've got it just in your hand. It's fully encrypted. You're just buying stuff, downloading it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And that's how it goes. And there was a room called the Ninth Room in South Korea that had thousands of paid members making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year off of abuse and torture content. And the guy who ran it took the jail sentence rather than encrypting his members list fully, because there was basketball players, American football players, politicians, people from all around the world. So he took the sentence rather than knowing somebody was going to snuff him. The Ninth Room, you can look it up. And that's when you realize that the dark web mythology has protected this for so long. Because there's a story, Danny, of a little girl called Daisy, right? And a video called Daisy's Destruction. Okay. Now, this is real. This isn't lore. This is Peter Scully, No Limits Fun. Peter Scully was a man who done a lot of fraud business and then flew out to Thailand and started up the one legitimate thing of nightmares, where No Limits Fun was making custom unaliving, torture, abuse victims of children. And he had two young girls that would go out and find the victims. And Daisy and her sister, Daisy's sister never made it. She died. And then was subsequently buried by her friends in the kitchen of the house she died in. But Daisy lives. Daisy lived, and Daisy was 10 months, I think, when her torture and abuse started. And we're talking hours of physical, sexual abuse on an infant child, filmed and recorded and sold for around $15,000 a copy. And boy, did it sell. And Peter Scully's now in prison for the rest of his life. Peter Scully, you need to Google the Peter Scully interview, Channel 7 News, and look at the lack of remorse in this man, because we're talking about someone who destroyed multiple young children's lives, infant lives, for profit. This is the real deal. Now, the biggest website in the world was called Hurt to the Core. Now, Hurt to the Core was the biggest collection of torture and hardcore abuse pedophiles in the world. And you had people torturing, you had people writing the names of legendary hardcore pedophiles on the naked bodies of their own children and taking pictures of them as tribute. Oh, yes, we're in the fanboy era now. We're in the era of we're a fan of the way you torture children. And I'm going to show you how much I love you by torturing my child with your fucking name on them and then post it on the internet. Now, the beautiful thing about this website, the business plan, was if you wanted to be a member here, Danny, you had to upload new abuse images every month. Every month. When your subscription fee was up to pay it that month, you better have new images and be an active abuser or you're out here. And that's what kept them safe for so long. Because how the fuck do I infiltrate that? You can't. You cannot infiltrate the sites that have these abuse barriers, right? That's when the big boy police need to come in, like the people that have legally got, you know, able to do stuff like that. You know, I can't deal with a safeguard like that. So hurt to the core, biggest community in the world. We had four of the biggest monsters in the world on this site. Peter Scully. Then you had the guy who was subsequently stabbed to death in prison. I can't remember his name. The guy with the black hair is in the documentary. And we had the other UK guy with the curly blonde hair. And then we had Shannon, right? I can't remember his name again. I apologize. The ADHD, right? He was a Australian special needs carer for disabled children. Okay. And I think his name was Shannon. Something anyway. I do apologize. I will if you watch my documentary, all the names are in there, and I apologize. There's too much information for me to remember. And this guy would take your non-verbal children and just make the most horrendous content, upload it to this site, and then the master of it all, Lux, the creator of Hurt to the Core, the man himself, who has never ever made a single piece of abuse content himself. Fascinating, right? Non-abuser, just facilitates the platform for it all, which makes sense when you find out that he's 19 years old when the police end up raiding his house and take him down, and he'd been doing this since he was 17. And when the police raided him, he laughed in their face, said, "Go ahead, good luck." And he never shut down one of his servers properly, and it wasn't encrypted. And that's how they got him. We're talking dumbass, dumb ass. Like, oh, come and arrest me, cops. You'll never get me, with the evidence file duct taped onto your chest. Do you know what I mean? Dumbass. And when they took him down, the whole Hurt Core domino effect fell into place. Major arrests, a shutdown of some of the most vile things that you can think of. And this wasn't me. This was right about the same time I got into all this. This was a major operation out in Australia. Is it Operation Argos? I can't remember. Australia don't mess about. Okay, they do not mess about with these things. And all the major players and these sites I've spoken about have all been taken down in Australian operations. Every single one. Just to be clear, Scully, Lux, all of them. And sadly, when something that big, that's adored by monsters, disappears, that's when legend and mythology and things come into play. And you had certain popular individuals try and rally and regroup and make their own versions of what they had, right? And then you take a look on Facebook, Danny, and you find out about something called Hard Crush. Now, did you know that insects and like crustaceans don't have the same rights as like a cat or a dog? Right. So you can film yourself in a beautiful set of high heels with your toenails painted red, stomping all over live crabs and insects, and that's okay, right? Legally. I'm not saying morally or I think it's okay. It's just legally you can do that, right? But then you find out that people are doing it to like live bunnies, right? With high heels on and like shoving the heel through one eye and out the other while it's alive, putting puppies in vices, all this stuff. And you're like, all right, nah, okay. And then you find a group on Facebook that's doing the same thing to toddlers. Yeah. Okay. Putting a plank of wood over a 5-year-old and then sitting on the plank of wood so that the plank of wood is crushing down over their ribs while they're screaming their head off. On Facebook. On Facebook. Okay. A whole behind the scenes surface level child abuse, hard crush community busted by us, exposed. All of this has been exposed. Like I'm about to relaunch all my documentaries. The first part of this the interview today is Hope Dies Here. That covers a child lover and the journey into the Hurt Core. Then there's the 3-part Hurt Core documentary. Then there is Hard Crush. it is horrible watches. All of them are going to ruin your whatever it is, your weekend or your evening. But why the hell should we be allowed to turn away from an expose when these little children, right? These little children, I remember, Danny, that some twisted mother fudger put a sound file from a child being tortured on YouTube, and for about a week, everyone thought it was part of an ARG or an online game. This was a little boy's screams as two monstrous, murderous men are walking towards him while he stands clothed, terrified in a shower cubicle. Right?
This is Podesta.
Interesting that you say that, right? That you say that because the file that you're talking about with the screaming Podesta sounds and the noise of what sounds like Podesta in the background were part of that. Okay. But that whole subject is a whole other interview. The Podesta, I mean, the only reason I'm saying that is you need to be real careful in 2025 on YouTube what the next word out of your mouth is when you say Clinton, Podesta, anything, because that entire Italian baked cheesy good scenario, right, has been listed as a QAnon conspiracy on YouTube now, and the algorithm will hunt your ass down and vaporize you. So we need to be careful what we say about that. But yes, if you know what I'm talking about, the metal thing that you open at the front of your garden with a bit of Italian baked cheesy baked how do we describe this without saying the P word? But you know, pasta fence. How about that? Pasta fence. There you go. That whole thing is about as real as it gets. But again, that's a whole other conversation that we'll need to probably put out there for people to download and watch on their computer, because I wouldn't put your channel at risk even putting that information out there, regardless of whether I know it to be fact or not, because they will just vaporize you.
Yeah, again,
They did it to me.
Authorities, bloodline families, Lumina.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Capstone, and it's remarkable because these soulless psychopaths that like little children, they again, their arrogance has taken them so far. They have unalived many people coming after them. And again, those days are done. I want people to understand where we are now as a humanity.
Yeah.
Crisis that we've been living under, the spells have crumbled, are broken, are breaking. And it's people like you who've been out there riding hard at the forefront, just
Yeah.
galloping, charging into these groups of monstrous beings. And it is very hard to listen to it. And again, one thing about humanity, there's so many people just so it's all about them. Oh, I can't handle it. Oh, I can't. Nobody can handle it, Doris. Kevin, no one can
Yeah.
handle it. Least of all the little victims, so
Yeah.
sometimes people they just need to take a deep breath, pull up their big boy and big girl pants and say, this is happening on my planet. And it's happening at the highest levels of leadership and the lowest levels of nothingness.
Yeah. See,
There's
I
no.
feel very much,
Mm.
I very much agree with you. But I feel like I was asking politely 7 years ago for all of you to listen about this. Okay. Now you're either with me or you're against me. It's a clear line in the sand. You're either with me on my mission or I'm going to destroy you in the path as you get in my way. There is no alternative. I'm not explaining nothing. You either want to save children or you don't. It's as simple as that. I'm done with the asking. I'm done with the calmness. I'm done with the politically correctness. What the hell are most of you doing sat on the internet preaching about children when you do nothing? Nothing. Yappa, 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 yappa. That's all I see.
Mhm.
So this is the day, man. This is the age where you collectively will unite. Even if you are just sharing uh, information like this, you are contributing. Do not think that your time is worthless. Do not think you have to go on the dark web. Do not think you have to be reporting. Do not think you have to be sticking your neck out. You, with your eyes open, observing, see the children as they arrive to school when you do the drop off. Is there kids turning up with strange marks or, body language that's odd? That is what the very basis of what we are trying to move forward with is policing our own. Okay. Whose fault is it? Yours. Whose fault is it? Mine. Police your own. Okay. Because if this was livestock attacking other livestock, it would be dealt with like that. Okay. The systematic destruction of community, of family, of trust contributes to all of this. Know your neighbors, educate your neighbors, unite with your neighbors.
Mm.
Sitting in solitude, alone, living in fear, and consuming is the crown jewel in the enemy's plan for the domination of your soul and this world and our children.
Mhm. Let's talk a
Do
bit.
not, yeah,
And
sorry.
no, no, please. This is important. This is why you're on my channel, Ron. These are the areas that we go on this channel. We bring warriors forward. We bring survivors forward. We bring people
Yeah.
that take action after their words, right? And you're
Oh,
a great
yeah.
example of this.
Yeah.
And that again, as people are trying to come to terms with how corrupt their entire world is, and every
Yeah.
single system, hospitals, education, medicine, music, science, you name it,
Everything.
corruption.
Everything.
Right. So one of the things that people find it hard to acknowledge, let's say in America,
Yeah.
is the dilution and the attack from the inside on kids in the classroom, the
Yeah.
soft porn books that were snuck into during COVID, that parents had no idea their children are being subject to porn. You know,
Yeah.
one of these disgusting filth books was written by a chinless wonder, that like the aristocrat. They're so incestuous, the bloodlines. It looked like one of them, but even worse than that, his book was, if the man over the road wants you to pop into bed with him, that's all right. No, it fucking isn't.
Oh,
For
I would have loved,
oh my God,
loved to have
hold
seen
on.
the day.
I
Sorry, only go, Danny. Only go.
Oh my
Sorry.
God. Okay, so and sometimes you have to throw out a good fuck in people's faces so they
Yep.
get over themselves and they recognize what's been
Yep.
happening in their classrooms to their grandchildren, to the kid across the street, bloody babies. Oh my God. Anyway, the
Yeah.
that I remember watching during the COVID time too. This brave mum, she dragged a school board of governors in to court, and it was in New York. And she stood and she read. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for you. I've just upset my family members here. Sorry.
All
Uh,
right.
and and anyway, the judge said to the school governors, "You either step down, resign, or I am having you arrested," because she proved that they had snuck porn into the
Yeah.
children's bathrooms. And this is what's been going on. And then you've got the other layers of, do you want to be a pussycat? Bring your litter box into the classroom and shit in it. Teacher
Yeah.
will pick it up for you. So it is so sad that the people that really do need help, and then this psychological warfare on our children in the classrooms, in education. And one of the sickest things they've done is they've put in the pedos in the playground, in the classroom. The pedos are on
Yes.
the school board, they're the school governors, they're the PTA.
Yeah.
They're all getting together in their black dark groups on the dark web that you've infiltrated, right? And again, like you said, Ron, you don't get to turn away anymore. No
No.
parent and no non-parent. You don't have to be a parent. On your doorstep, you will pay attention, because if you don't, you are complicit. You don't get to ignore anymore. We're taking our
Yeah.
planet back. We're changing the systems, and we are rescuing from the inside out. And yeah, if you see a child and it can't walk properly, why? What's happened to it?
Mhm.
Oh, you can't go there, can you? That kid's going to go home. What's going to happen to that kid? It's like you say, Ron, enough of your bullshit, enough of your
Yep.
can be bloody, I can't handle it. You know,
Yep.
get out of the way then, because Ron's coming on his stand
Right.
and I'm
Listen,
coming right behind him.
yeah, we are on a mission now. And I just wanted to say as well, I'm going to share my screen. I just need to remember how I do that. Oh, yeah,
Oh,
there we go. So the big massive button that says share. There we go.
allow. Hold on a second. There we go.
That's all right.
Okay, you should be able to now.
Okay, there we go. Right. So this is my website. And everything I've spoken about here, if you go to projectrooq.com, everything that I've spoken about uh, is here. There's documentaries, Hope Dies Here, there's Surviving Life, that's a full breakdown of everything that I've done. And now my internet is, oh, there we go. Then all the work I've done is here. You go to Surviving Life, you click on it, and you scroll down. There is everything that YouTube took from me. All the investigations, all the people I've busted, all the dark web stuff, everything is backed up here. And Surviving Life is now relaunched as a podcast. And there is a symbol and a movement that goes with all of this. And I'm just going to show your wonderful audience once my screen, there we go. This is myself, it's Beverly, and a guy called Big Homie. And we cover all the aspects of the real world, the spiritual world, and the digital world as far as children being at risk. And it comes with a movement that is represented by this symbol, and the movement has no name. This symbol simply represents that you do not tolerate child abuse, child trafficking, any form of oppression to children. It's over now. Okay. And this symbol put up in little shops, little home businesses, you stick it on your bag, a badge, whatever, put up stickers around your area. I want this movement to grow to a point where areas with predators in them start learning what the hell this means, and that the walls are closing in. And every Friday, I do a podcast where we report on the missions that we're doing and how we're going to be actively making change in this world. I'm handling the digital, Beverly's got the spiritual, Big Homie's got the real life. And, you know, when you're part of a team that is literally kicking in doors and dragging survivors out of these hellholes, it's not easy. I mean, bulletproof vests are a real thing, you know, and you're all going to be part of this. There's a Discord. If you go to projectrooq.com/surviving life podcast and you scroll down here, you will see a join the movement Discord link right there. That'll take you to our little community. You can start interacting with everyone and be part of this. Now, this podcast doesn't have any set home. We want to get bigger and bigger platforms, bigger and bigger people involved so that we can put episodes out on their platform, giving us access to their audience, their followers, their subscribers, and creating something that can't be taken down because it doesn't have a set home. And speaking fluent algorithm, I'm very good at protecting channels that are involved. I would love, right? I would love at the end of this to play my trailer for the podcast, and we'll save that for the end, though, Danny, because it's a banger. And I would love to see as many people there tomorrow night. I know it's Valentine's Day, but it is what it is. If this has even gone out by then, and yeah, so we're still at. We're sort of at the era of the dark web still. Okay, we've come out of that and we're into the apps and the social medias and all of this, Danny. And that's the sad reality now, that it's so common and widespread that most social media platforms are infiltratable, are not safe for children. There is encrypted apps for conversation and distribution that is basically like the old version of the dark web. We've got phones and devices that have been what are called jailbroken, which means their programming has been reprogrammed inside them, that make it harder for police and people to gather evidence. Because if you've got rumors of somebody doing something, but their device completely digitally shreds everything inside it, it's hard to prove things. And criminals are getting smart. like real smart. Now, the biggest fight, Danny, is AI generated child abuse material, right? This is the new thing. And the UK is the first country in the world to try and set legislation that does mandatory jail sentences for companies that develop any form of application that can generate this material. Mandatory jail sentences for anyone that sets up a website where any of this can happen through back-end applications and things like this, and mandatory jail sentences for possession of this. And we're talking about a new pandemic of abuse content that normalizes and facilitates and allows child abuse to flourish in whatever country that it dwells within. Because this normalization and this proactive sympathy for individuals that seem to list this as anything else other than madness, okay, ain't ever going to wash. I have got a lot of friends who are part of LGBTQ, rainbows, all this kind of stuff, that are mortified that any movement could ever be associated with abusing children. Mm-hmm. Normalization, words like MAP, minor attracted person, is the rebrand of pedophilia.
Oh my God.
You know, it's not your fault, right? It's not your fault.
Yeah.
Madness. And
you know.
Yeah.
Oh my
Listen,
God.
I had after about 5 years of this, I had a mad mental spiral. I mean, we're talking, I felt like I lost my mind for about 2 months. But good now, you know. But I mean, I had to step away for a couple of years. I mean, I say step away. I was still going. Like, here's another thing. Like, I took down tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, videos of P-Hub, right? Because they had child sex dolls being used in adult material. Like, imagine you've got a literal child-size sex doll, and it's the story of Frozen playing out on P-Hub. God. Right? So I made a video about it and then uploaded my video about it to P-Hub, and my video was taken down off P-Hub because it violated their terms of service. But in doing so, they had to then remove thousands, and I mean tens of thousands of videos. I've outed the nudist community in the UK, where you can go on websites and buy naked children's party DVDs quite freely over the internet. And they use these loopholes to make communities of abusers and child lover motherfuckers that they think are going to go unfucking noticed. I'm back, motherfuckers. Remember me, nudists? It's round 2 and I'm hungry, right? This is the year. And I'm going to re-educate everybody on the things that need dealt with from the past, and we're going to move on into new realms of exposing and dealing with these issues. And this ain't no half measures. Okay, the team that's in place now can reach out and touch people. Okay, we can reach out and touch you.
You know, there's plenty of FEMA camps and concentration camps all around the world that the infiltrators, the soulless psychopaths, were planning to put humanity.
Oh, man, yeah.
Now we've got a place for all the minor attracted persons, all you sickos, all you pedos, all you murderers, you stalkers, you freakoids, you soulless psychopaths. We're coming for you. Love is coming for you. So you better know what time it is. And again,
Yeah.
Don't want to participate, just get out of the way, just go away. Nobody wants to listen to you. Leave. And those that want to come and support Ron, you know where he's at. He's right here, right now. And it's Projectrooq. In fact, you can see
Rook
on the screen the whole time. You can see that blue banner under him right there. Get more at projectrooq.com, right? Or Rook. Sometimes, I'm dyslexic, so I can see that Q. Right?
Why would you want to make your business name easy for people to figure out? Do you know what I'm saying? Just throw a Q on the end, confuse everyone. Do you know what I mean? But no, I appreciate that, Danny, because like when you talk to survivors, and I know you have, like once you've spoken to one of them, it's fairly instilled in my brain after the first time that I do not have the right to stop what I'm doing. Because I just wanted to make camping videos, Danny. Camping videos. How do you go from bushcraft to this? Do you know what I'm saying? And it was outrage and it was disgust. and it was a need to do something. And there's people walking around right now, Danny, right? Some of them are eating their breakfast, some of them are eating their dinner. And this year, their whole life's going to change. Their life is going to change in ways they have lost all back of their mind thought that they will ever be caught for what they're doing. They're so comfy right now. And I cannot wait to imagine all of their families texting them, the tears, the outrage, the loss of their job, the people knowing where they live, the anarchy that will bestow your life if you think that you can touch children and get away with it. If you appear on my radar, if I get your blood in my water, there is nothing that will stop me from finding you. We have a group of individuals that will use their fucking brains to find you. And then we will place something in your mind that will corrupt it until you're ready and it can confess that you just can't take any more. And that's the lucky ones. So good luck, little mice. Good luck. Start scarpering.
And
Because this is it.
God's not going to help you. Go into the Pope, who's probably involved, whatever, right? Again, ignoring authority, just moving past it. No one is safe. Everything anyone's ever done to harm any child on any level, anywhere, anytime, any decade, yeah, backwards or frontwards, yeah, they're gonna know what time it is. And it's such a serious issue. It's like, Doge, and all the investigations and all the scummery that's coming to light and all those rats are scarpering because now everything's being discovered. But this is the timeline we're on where everything, all the injustices are on the surface. The lights are on, the doors are locked. There's no escape, this is absolutely perfect. And you're a perfect person and have been for so long. And I just want to thank you so much for all the years of work and suffering and all of the heavy lifting that you've done on your own, Ron. You've done it on your
Well,
own by
listen,
yourself.
it's a massive team. It's a massive team, Danny. And I'm the tip of the spear, right? And there's a long pole that I'm on the top of. Like I'm at the tip of, not the top of. I'm the tip of, because the skill sets needed to do some of these operations are 50, 60 people, and that's decoys, that's people writing bits of script for breaching very complex password security systems on websites. That's back-end breachers trying to get into databases. It's people creating children's voices and things like this to trick individuals into believing our illusion. I am merely the face of it all. I'm the one who's happy to shout and talk about it and report on it, that when we achieve what we are trying to achieve, because everybody in the background is way smarter than me, is way more capable of all of this than me, and I need them hidden, protected, and I'm happy to be the face of that. But it's a huge team, and even though it was me that stepped out myself alone and started all of this, the team that I've got around me has been around me since day one. The majority of them are still the same people. And we're bonded through this. So although I'm the face of a lot of things, I am just a mere humble servant of the incredible team that is the other 49 carriages behind the engine, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And without them, I would be limited to what I could do. Exposing, infiltrating, sure, but the real deal stuff, the stuff that puts people in jail, that is a massive collective effort, and all the praise goes to them, 100%.
That's amazing. I want you to remind us again what the IWF stands for, please.
Oh yeah, the Internet Watch Foundation. In fact, let me
Internet.
let me bring it up for you because that's a good one.
I know there are lots of people that will want to immediately connect to you, subscribe to your channel, this channel that you're on, the Projectrooq.
Yeah, Projectrooq, yep. Yeah, no, I would appreciate that. And this is how simple it is, guys. You type in IWF and then you go eliminating child sexual abuse online. You click here, and here we go. This is it. These are the daddies, These are the daddies, metaphorically speaking. So your picks, there's so much stuff to watch on here that makes you feel empowered. These hashtags, right? This whole hashtag movement that they've made, where they are categorizing these abuse materials so that as they're traveling through digital space, you know, when something goes over a barcode reader in the supermarket, it's like beep, like that. Well, imagine something like that in a digital world where as things are being sent around, these tags, right, are automatically being spotted and then the image is just being vaporized. You see what I mean? It's incredible. So definitely take a minute, everyone, to come and watch the groundbreaking IDUF technology. But how does it work? So we come on here and we click on report, and you fill out this little form. What do you want to report? Horrible images of children. Are they under 18 now? Sure. Are you in the UK? So let's go no. How old are they? And you describe what you're seeing, and you fill all this in, right? And there is a section for every possible social media post, horrible website, something suspicious, crazy uncle on Facebook, whatever. There is an option for that. And this is the place. You don't come to me looking for help. You report stuff here, okay? If you have got a situation where everything has failed you, the police, the government, the council, all of that, you've got paperwork to show that you and your child have been let down. You have evidence, you have whatever. That is when we get involved. Like the police, Interpol, IWF, all of these institutes are where you go first, okay? Because here's a prime example. I'm doing a case right now that I've been working for 3 years, Danny. Child trafficking, child abuse that covers almost 20 years, 25 years. And I almost went public with a story, but the courts completely changed, got a new judge, and now the whole case is looking like there's going to be serious charges brought to these people.
Mm.
But if I'd put that out ahead of that, it would have ruined everything. So there's certain things you've got to be really vigilant with about reporting on, because if you actually want convictions and it's just not a clout chase, you've got to do things properly. You know, I've had individuals who I've exposed on YouTube who I've tried to go down the legal process with, but their legal process hasn't done what I've requested of them. So I've completely went a different route, shall we say. And I don't give a rat's backside who you are. I really don't. If the law don't do their job properly, I'll do their job for them 100%.
That is right. We do not wait for authority. We do not wait for the law. We act. We take it into our hands, not violent vigilanteism. I'm not suggesting that. But you know, we make our own minds up. So
I
let's
tell
go.
you what, I tell you what, you spot something in your area and you phone the police and say, hiya, I just like to tell you I'm about to go and stab a pedophile. You watch how quickly those fucking police turn up.
Yeah.
Don't phone up and say, oh, I think my neighbor's this. Be like, you better get here because a crime is about to be committed. And they'll be there in about 4 minutes. And then you just greet them calmly and go, okay, so I might have exaggerated, but could we just go and maybe give this guy maybe don't take Ron's advice. Don't take Ron's advice. It's all terrible advice. Do not do that. Do not do that. It's terrible advice. But what I'm saying is, do not put yourself at risk. Okay. If you have to put yourself at risk because the police have let you down and the police have let everyone down, that's what you have to do. You have to make your own judgment call. So, you cannot criticize someone who does not have the balls to confront someone in the street or whatever. You can do other things. You can take down or take a couple of photographs and phone the police and do a lot of things without having to be as outrageous and outspoken and as brash as me. Every single person has a key role to play in all of this, even if you're just sharing around and educating people on the IWF.
Yeah.
Because it's so important. But don't ever think you need to be like someone like me. You can be so involved in this in whatever way works for you, as long as you have got at the forefront your absolute stance on eliminating abuse of children. Then we can be friends,
Absolutely.
and we can make some change.
I've got a couple of things to say on the IWF, the Internet
Yeah,
Watch Foundation. A
yeah,
thank sharing that website. Thank you for taking us through it, so people now
No
have
problems.
they'll know
Of
like
course.
is. But here's something also really important. There are some people that need to report, but they're trapped. They feel trapped. They're scared. They're terrified. I understand that. So here's something you can do. You get a wig, get a hat, get a pair of glasses, go to the local library, use a computer at the library. You don't have to use your own, computer, your own phone. There are many
Yeah.
ways that you can report anonymously to help. It might be happening in your own household. Look how many children in recent years, with the mental parents have been tying the children up and starving them and
Right.
bullying them and all of this.
Yep.
So wear glasses, go to the library, and I also want to remind people that it is never out of reach. These crimes are never out of reach. Max Lowen, who I just had on my channel here, who was educated, wealthy, aristocratic connections, was trafficked through the Vatican, saw the seat to Lucifer underneath. It's real, whether you believe it or not. I don't care
Yeah.
who believes it, who doesn't. I know it's true. I know Max witnessed it. But Max was a what we would call an elite child, and yet she went through absolute horrors. Oh my God, at the worst level. And then in New Zealand, my friend Gloria Masters, who was groomed by her grandmother, and her dad would lease her to gangs. And part of a gang ritual was to do whatever they wanted, these supposed men. I mean, the mentality, like that's a ritual, that's the new blooding. We're gonna do all these things to a little girl, and we're all gonna be these big men doing that. So there's no child that could not be affected by any level of society in any country, any tribe, and we got to get real about that. I put other people down as well. Kathy O'Brien, who was she's what they called a presidential model, MK Ultra, torture as a little girl to an adult, and was, transported to Cheney's office, Reagan's office, Bush's office. Oh my God, from a little girl to an adult, and was told that when she was 30, she'd be put in a snuff film. That's how they end those. And they said also Marilyn Monroe was a presidential model. Again, all these things are coming out, nowhere to
Yeah.
hide. So again, we can't assume that we know it doesn't happen to these kids, it doesn't happen to these families. It's anyone. It's anyone. And
Yeah.
that's the real sad part of it. Well, listen, we've gone a couple of hours on this, you beautiful, amazing advocate for
Wait,
global.
Danny, we got two. I need to say two more things, right? If you're watching this, right, maybe you're a young teen, maybe something happened to you, maybe you're going through something right now. There is a hand signal, right, that has been put out there for non-verbal identification of stress. Okay, if you're in distress, suffering from domestic violence, anything, okay, if you're in the back seat of your creepy uncle's car and you see policemen and you put your hand up, tuck in your thumb, and fold down your fingers, that is the non-verbal signal for I need your freaking help now. Okay. Educate people on this hand signal. Recognize what it means, spread it around. It has saved lives already. Okay. There are people whose lives have been changed because there is a universal signal that is non-verbal that police forces will be able to identify if you need you need help. For the love of God, no, right? There is a army of people who will get behind your safety and liberation. There is good police. Sadly, there's horrific police. But this is a new world, and I just want every single person who suffers to know there is a way out. And that is the non-verbal hand signal. So just to be clear, you put your hand up, you tuck your thumb in, you put your fingers down. Okay. If a salesman comes to the door and you open the door and you get your hand up and you give up a bit of this, that is what the non-verbal signal for distress, domestic violence, abuse. It's been adopted for a emergency situation, if you will. And yeah, if it's okay with you, Danny, can I end this with me playing my trailer for the podcast and the movement, if that's okay? Um, because I would very much appreciate that. And there we go. And we just make this. Well, I'll make this large. Now I'm gonna play this. I'll mute my mic and everything like that. It's about 3 minutes long, Danny, and then we can close it. I'm sorry to be a pain in the bum and do this, but I would really, really appreciate it.
No, my
So
pleasure, Ron, to support you and your work and invite others to join you, and do their bit on the planet. It's
yeah.
important.
So every Friday, 9 o'clock, my channel, the Projectrooq channel, the Sean Atwood channel, Big Homies channel, all the people involved, you'll be able to watch and support it there. But let's take a look at the trailer, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
You would wait and watch from far away. You always knew that you'd be the one who was right. Away, and see how you change.
Not playing well, my love. Sound is muffled. Yeah, Ron, can you hear me, darling? It's not playing properly. Ron, it's not playing. Ron. Ron. Oh, bless. Darling, do I have to phone you?
From the
Oh, is it not playing? I tell you what, we'll just cut that bit out and we'll just end it
No,
here, and
no,
I'll stick a
we'll leave
link in
it.
the description.
No,
I'll
we'll
stick a
leave
link in the
it.
description.
We'll
Yeah.
leave it. That's so funny. I just had to text you. I'm going, Ron, Ron.
Yeah, sorry, Ron and the technical difficulties. There'll be a link in the description, guys. Go and watch it there, and just how to ruin someone's podcast. I do apologize. So, thank you very much, Danny. Thank you for letting me try. Anyway, I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, Ron. I love you. So proud of you. The work you're doing
Thank
is
you.
phenomenal. And again, to you viewers out there, like, please go over to Ron's YouTube channel, subscribe, get on his everything list, and join him. Arm to arm, we unify. We're a
Yeah,
human army of beloveds.
yeah,
And our duty is to protect our children and to help the
yeah.
adults who've gone through situations and empower them. And we do that together. And Ron, you're a beautiful example of a powerful man who
Thank you.
speaks into the field and then takes action behind that.
Yeah.
Beautiful example of
Well,
that.
thank
Thank
you,
you,
Danny.
Ron.
Thank you to your viewers. This week, I'm launching a new podcast, which is Loose Women for Men, all about men's problems, mental health. We're going to collectively get together as a group of guys. And for the first time, we're going to just share our emotions and talk about our problems and talk about mental health. It's going to be awesome. It's on my friend Luke's Break the Ice channel, and it's going to start next week. So, anybody who wants to come and hang out with us and hear about the troubles of being a man, please do come and join us. So thank you, Danny. Thank you, everyone. And can't wait for the next one.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, Ron. And again, Ron Swanson, guys, at projectrooq.com.
Rook. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you soon.